Nothing is going right for the Renegades, and now they've lost the fight for the Psyots in the Harbinger War. Can they possibly get things right? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read it dramatically back to you. All alterations of the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Today we're going to be covering Harbinger Volume 4, and if you like this, make sure you check out the new series that just started called Renegades. I'll link it down below. But since YouTube has changed things once again, forcing YouTubers to beg you for likes and subs, it's time for me to join that bandwagon. So if you want Comicstorian to continue, then I nicely ask you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the Renegades by Valiant Comics. While we're at it with begging for things, how about you guys follow my Twitter at Comicstorian and my Instagram at Comicstorian, and without further ado, it's time to begin. At the end of our last chapter, Peter and the rest of the Renegades found themselves in a battle between the Psyot hunter Bloodshot as well as Toya Harada. The fight started over a group of young Psyots who had managed to escape PRS, and the Renegades had arrived to help them out. However, Bloodshot had proved to be too much for them to handle, and in the end, Toya Harada captured the young Psyots and the Renegades barely escaped. After that run-in with Toya and Bloodshot, the Renegades decided that it was time for them to have a much-needed vacation away from all of the fighting that they had been doing lately. It seemed like the perfect day in Los Angeles, catching some sun at the beach, crashing a bodybuilder contest, and just all around having a good time. A little while later, the group sits down to grab a bite to eat, and while they sit down, a passerby stops to drop off a flyer for an eco-friendly, super spiritual party happening over in the desert. Charlene tells everyone that they should all head out there, but Faith tells her maybe not. As the day begins to wind down, Charlene and Chris decide to head out to the desert festival, while Torque says that he's going to go find some manly metal playing somewhere. With only leaving Peter and Faith alone, the two decide that they're just gonna fly around the city. Over at the festival, Charlene and Chris dance with the crowds, and while they dance, Charlene tells Chris to come over, and she kisses her. Charlene tells her sorry she got carried away, but Chris tells her no. It was nice. A few moments later, Charlene then sees a group of fire dancers and decides to join in. After a bit of flinging the fire around, one of the stagehands tells Charlene that the DJ would like her to come up on stage. Chris tells her to go have fun, she'll hang back. But as Chris walks off thinking about how today was such a nice day, she hears a voice asking how she can be having so much fun. She looks back to see herself, and she tells her that they have to listen to the sea. Just then, a giant tidal wave appears and it begins crashing down on everyone. Through the water, she can see something. Giant sea lions, and they start to eat up everyone in sight. A few moments later, Chris wakes up, and she finds out that what she had just seen was all in her head. A little while later, Charlene finds Chris sitting alone, and Chris tells her that there's something seriously wrong. It was like a bad trip or a hallucination. Once Chris and Charlene get back to the hotel, Chris has a dream, one where she remembers the ocean telling her to do something she begs that she doesn't have to do. But if she does it, it has to promise her, right? She knocks on Torque's room and asks if she can come in. And then Torque asks her if something's wrong, and she tells him that she's a very bad person. She killed people. Faith almost died for her, and she wonders if her parents are even alive right now. Right now, she just wants to be held. Torque lays down with her in bed, and Chris asks, why is he so stiff? Hasn't he ever been held before? Didn't his mother used to hold him? He tells her that she died when he was young, and Chris says that she'll show him some love. Just imagine that she's his mother, telling him that she's so sorry for leaving him. Slowly, Torque's psychic shell begins to fade, turning him back into the crippled child that he is. Once his guard is dropped, Chris crawls on top of him and begins to beat him with a skateboard, telling him that the sea was right. This feels freaking amazing. Torque begins to scream out in pain, waking everyone up, and soon Faith and Charlene step into Torque's room. What they find is Chris standing with a bloodied up skateboard as Torque lies in bed, dying. Chris tells everyone that she tried to make them understand. They have to go to the sea. But as Faith rushes over, she tells everyone that he's dead. And just before Charlene can ignite Chris, Torque's psychic shell begins to form. In a sudden flash, Torque opens his eyes, telling Faith, she looks awesome. Am I dead? Yeah, I totally am. Everyone begins to look at themselves in their new clothes, and Torque tells them that he's dead, and now they are in his perfect heaven. Torcala! Torque begins to give everyone a tour, including the fans of his own reality TV show, and the impenetrable fortress known as Anthrax Keep. After showing everyone how awesome Metal Crazy Train is, Torque steps through a portal to what is known as the Great Lord's Place of Respite. Charlene pokes out of the portal stating, whoa, 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 time out, and the rest of the group steps out, and Chris sees a body of ocean and begins to ask what is that. Torque tells her that it's the Sea of Woe, where most of his adventures start. And Chris says, that's it, that's where they need to go, so come on everyone. Charlene tells her to hang on. She's still on an emotional roller coaster from what just happened. Torque died and now they're in Torquehala, but Chris tells her that she doesn't know how to explain it, they just need to go there. Soon Torque begins to argue with his knights because of the way Chris spoke to him, and Peter says, look, we just need to figure things out and get back to LA. Fine, she tells the group. Let's all go get wasted then, and Chris and Torque do just that. As Chris sneaks off during the party, Torque finds her stating that he just wanted everyone to have a good time here. She isn't, is she? Torque sits down next to her stating that he forgives her for killing him. Even though it kinda hurt, he felt a sudden freedom with it. He then gives her a map of Torquehala and tells her how to get to the Sea of Woe. Chris notices that it looks like she can just take the crazy train straight there, and he tells her no, that's his favorite. So, Chris decides to take the crazy train anyway, but watching her board is Charlene, and as it begins to take off, Charlene hops on board that train. Elsewhere though, Faith and Peter fly through the skies, and Faith asks if he can just kiss her once. She's never been kissed before. Peter tells her that he's glad that she finally asked, and after they kiss, she tells him, wow, thank you, whoever you are. Peter pulls back asking what? She tells him that she knows that he's not the real Peter. He loves Chris, not her. And right now, he would be a little bit more worried as to where she went. So hopefully, she distracted him long enough so that the others can figure out how to get back to the real world. As Faith closes her eyes, we see that she's not really in Torquehala. She's in a giant tube filled with water, along with the other three. Ingrid tells Toya Harada that even though their virtual Los Angeles crashed, her concern isn't for their experiment. Her concern is for Peter Stanchek. Toya tells her that she should tend to her own garden. Stanchek's been taken care of. Just the other day, however, the battle at the Bellagio didn't go exactly as the Renegades remembered, where they lost and escaped and had a great day in LA. Shortly after Faith flew off with the missile, Toya Harada and his group actually snuck up and captured the four of them in the security room, and shortly after, Faith was found in the desert. Since then, Chris, Faith, Torque, and Charlene have all been kept in test chambers that simulate a perfect world. Though Peter is not a part of this group, a virtual Peter was created in his place. However, Ingrid is concerned as she speaks to Toya, and she tells him that he's been taking on too much responsibility. Even though he has a great mind for all of this, even he has his limits. And Toya tells her that with all due respect, she is incapable of comprehending his limits. She then says that at least permit her to say one thing. By her calendar, they are past their sleep cycle date, and Toya stops her, telling her, that's enough. He then heads to where Peter is being held and tells him that he doesn't want to kill him. Really, he hates wasting potential resources. He's been pushing him, but for what reason? They are the same! The things that they could do together! If only he would just do as he's told! But as Peter's test chamber begins to beep, he tells him that at least he's able to get some rest. For Toya, he requires only 24 hours of sleep per month, and currently, he's on day 40. So when it is time for him to get some sleep, he locks himself away in a psionic suppression vault that only he can open, and he closes himself. Inside the vault, Toya experiences an intense mind squall, and he falls into a near-death sleep. As Toya watches over Peter, he tells him that it seems that everyone gets to dream tonight, except for him. But as time goes on, soon Toya begins to nod off, and everything begins to rumble. He puts his coat back on as Stronghold asks him if everything's okay, and he tells him it's fine. Now they have to have a productive day. After going through the day's schedule, Ingrid stops Toya, asking if she can have a moment. Toya tells her that she is not on the schedule, and he still has to check on the Generation Zero kids. So if she wants to talk, they must walk. She says that he knows what this is about. He hasn't slept in 40 days, and with him using some kind of background brain power to simulate Peter's perfect day, frankly, she's worried about a mind squall. He puts them all at risk. He tells her that he's sorry, but he's out of time. She's a valuable member of his team and an exceptional scientist. Unfortunately, hers is a soft science. However, back at Torquehala, Charlene makes her way to the top of the train, finally reaching Chris. Charlene says that she just went through a bunch of troll clowns. This place completely sucks. But what the hell is wrong with her running off like that? After getting down, Chris hugs her, telling her that she doesn't care whether she's here to stop her or help her. She's just glad that she's here. Soon, the two of them hear an explosion and they see Peter firing away at Faith. They jump up as Peter starts to choke Faith, and Peter tells Charlene that she needs to listen. Chris is trying to kill her just like Torque. She's going to drown her in that sea. Chris draws her bow, and Faith struggles to state that this Peter is an imposter, and she just lets go, and the arrow begins to drop. Charlene tells her that it's because she's firing against the wind. She'll have to take care of this, as she begins blasting away at Peter with fire. As Peter begins charging up, he begins to talk, but Chris and Charlene can't hear him, and they assume that it's probably some villain rant. Down below, the two high battle engineers discuss how they need to slow down before they reach the Sea of Woe, otherwise they're going to crash. But Charlene has a better idea, and she stokes the fire. And once the battle engineers jump off, Chris pushes the throttle. Over in Peter's perfect world dream, he wakes up one morning and notices that his dad looks a bit different. The man, who looks like Toya, tells him that of course he's his father. What's wrong with him? Back in the real world, the dream isn't being controlled because Toya is beginning to have a mind squall. Back in Torkala, the crazy train bursts through the barriers, and Chris says, "Here we go, it's going to be an amazing way to die." Soon, back in the real world, the entire Harbinger building begins to shake and crumble as Toya's mind squall begins to get out of hand. Ingrid tries to sedate him, but as Toya slowly calms down, Peter begins to awaken from his dream. Stronghold grabs Toya to take him over to the pacification tank, but as he and Ingrid step out, they see the effects of Toya's mind squall as the hallway is covered in bodies and blood. Before they can leave, a cartoon samurai cat appears, and Stronghold asks, "What the hell is that?" Ingrid says that it must be a projection of Monica Jim's, but it doesn't matter, they have to keep moving. Inside Monica's dream, Peter appears stating that she is one of the Generation Zero kids, right? He remembers her from Vegas. Monica then asks, "Does the sky normally look all cracked like that?" She hasn't spent much time outside, and Peter explains that this place isn't real. Someone is making her see all of this, and for some reason, things are going to hell. She tells him that she just had a dream. Maybe she's still dreaming, but it looks like she's asleep and her imaginary friends are trying to free her. Back in the real world, Monica's projections start taking apart the test chamber, and soon she begins to wake up. Monica uses her cartoon projections to become a giant gorilla, and she bursts out. And as Monica begins to regain her balance, Peter tells her that he needs her help. He needs her to help his real friends. Over in Torkala, the crazy train starts falling into the ocean, and right behind it, Faith. But back in the keep, Torque watches as Charlene and Chris begin to drown. What can he do? He decided to stay in the keep, but then it hits him. If this is his world? Suddenly, in the ocean, mermaids begin to appear, giving the three girls air, and Torque just watches, stating, "Haha, that's hot." Just as one of the remaining troll clowns appear, a giant sea lion appears, chomping down on it. And now, with the help of the sea lions, the three of them continue until they find a giant brain. Everyone looks at it and things begin to fade, and back in the real world, Stronghold begins pulling Chris out of the tube to put Toya into it, and just as she does, he's slammed against a wall. Peter tells everyone that he's here, and to keep their heads down because this room is about to shatter and break. Everyone opens their eyes and they begin climbing out of their tubes, and just as she sees him, Chris calls out that Toya is in there. Ingrid tells Peter not to do anything stupid. She understands if he's angry, but they are in a very dangerous situation right now, and he tells her that she knows that there's no way he can let Toya live. And she tells him she knows he let him down, but there is only one way for all of them to walk away from this. Peter tells her it'll be okay. He deserves pain, but he's just going to turn off his heart. And just as he does, Toya's eyes begin to open, and then he releases an explosion. Peter quickly puts up a barrier to protect everyone, and then the entire top floor explodes. Peter's barrier manages to save everyone, but back at the top floor, Ingrid managed to put Toya into one of the chambers. Toya begins to dream of his father returning so that they can finally be a happy family. What's gonna happen next to Harbinger? Let me know your theories down below, or if you already actually know because you read the books, let us know down below. But don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian, and I'll see you guys next time, right here at Comicstorian.